How do you sell a home in a slowing market? That's what I'm going to be chatting about today. My name is John Pasalis, president at Realosophy Realty. Get all my latest writings on Toronto's housing market at movesmartly.com. If you find this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest videos. So for those of you who follow me here online on Twitter, read my reports, know that I've started talking about these early signs of a slowdown we've been seeing in Toronto's housing markets a couple of months ago, actually, in my March report. And at the time, there wasn't really much concrete data. It was mainly just our observations about the volume of showings and traffic and website traffics and viewings of listings online, and all of these sort of early indicators, these leading indicators that were telling us things are slowing down. And this presents an interesting conversation. We're talking to our clients who needs to buy a home and then sell, because it raises the question, I mean, should they continue with that strategy? Should they buy first and then sell their home, knowing that they might be selling in a slower market? And it's a difficult conversation because on the one hand, we can't be too optimistic about the market because we don't know, or pessimistic because we don't know what the market's going to look like even 4 weeks from now. All we can do is really just advise our clients of some of the pros, cons, and risks if they find themselves selling in a slowing market, and let them decide. And many of our clients did end up buying and did end up selling and listing in a fastly, rapidly changing market where they weren't getting as many showings and offers. Fortunately, all of our clients, at least up until now, who needed to sell because they bought, all sold. But I thought this would be a good opportunity to chat about a little bit about some of the things that agents can do and some of the things they should not do, and sellers in particular, when you find yourself in this situation where you need to sell a home in a rapidly changing market. And I'm going to walk through some of the key things. And the first thing, of course, is that if you're taking this home, it's getting the order of your steps right. And the first thing, of course, is prepping your home for sale before you've actually bought a home. There are a lot of things that home sellers need to do to get their home ready, from making repairs, fixing a few things in the home, decluttering, packing, all of these things. This can take weeks for some people. And you don't want to be doing this stuff after you buy your home, because if you buy your home and you're wasting 3 or 4 weeks just to get your home ready, I mean, you could be hurting your potential, chance to sell if the market's a lot slower a month later. So you want to list your home as soon as possible. So you want to get all of this stuff done ahead of time, so that once you bought, really all you need to do is stage, photograph, and ideally be on the market within 7 days. I mean, that's the ideal strategy. And of course, ensuring you have a long closing date on the home that you just purchased, ideally 90 days or so. The second thing I want to chat about is understanding your current market. I mean, and this is critical. So many agents don't do this. So many agents, I have agents on Twitter trolling me and being upset that I'm saying that the market's slowing down because they think there's no signs of that. I don't even understand what they're doing. They may not sell a lot of homes. They may not have a lot of listings. They're not paying attention to the dynamics. So a lot of agents don't actually understand what's going on in the market as a whole, let alone their market. So one of the most important things that your listing agent can do before you list your home is understand what's going on, not just like with the statistics and stuff that I talk about, which is a little bit more of a macro level. We need to understand on the ground what all the similar homes to yours have experienced over the past week or two, the listings specifically. And we do this simply by calling the agents in the area. I mean, figuring out how many showings they're getting, how much traffic they're getting, how many offers they got. So most agents don't do this because either they don't think about it, or they don't want to waste the time, or I don't know why. And they just rely on what homes is sold for. So what most agents will do is, if you're about to list your home and they see that the home down the street, listed last week for $799 and sold for $150,000 over asking, most agents will look at that and say, see, we should do the same thing. They did great. They got a great price. Let's underprice and set an offer date. And they make their decisions just based on the sales data. But that's not entirely accurate, because if you pick up the phone and call that listing agent and they say to you, oh my God, we were so lucky we got that one offer for way over asking, they were very cooperative because we only had 10 showings. no other offers, just that one offer. We're so lucky and grateful. Your image and your, how you perceive the market changes significantly. And if that's what's going on, you may not want to list low and kind of follow in their footsteps, because you might not be so lucky in the next week. And this really kind of leads me to my next step, which is talking about having a nuanced strategy and understanding a pricing strategy that reflects the current market dynamics. If you're in a neighborhood, I mean, at least right now in downtown Toronto is still busy compared to sort of the outskirts, maybe you price low and set an offer date. But if you're in a market where it's slower, perhaps you don't have the opportunity to do that. You should just potentially be listing closer to what you want and taking offers anytime, rather than, it's effectively like playing games if you're listing low in a slowing market, because the odds of you getting the price you want are a lot lower. And similarly, your pricing strategy is going to be a function of how much time you have to sell. A lot of sellers today did silly things like have very, very short timelines to sell their home, like 45 to 60 days, which doesn't give them a ton of time to be on the market. If you have 90 days, you could potentially list your home a little bit at the high end of value, see if you can get that, if you find the right buyer. And if you're not getting the showings or traffic or offers, you can reduce your price in a week or two. Whereas if you only have 2 weeks to sell your home, you can't be as aggressive on your pricing. You have to take a completely different approach. So your strategy needs to be a function of both how quickly you need to sell and what's going on in your current market based on sort of the local trends. The last thing I'm going to chat about is of course, having realistic expectations in terms of the price. If we're selling today, say in May, we cannot be looking at comparables from February, especially if we're looking in the suburbs, because home prices have softened a little bit, and we're not necessarily going to achieve that price. So we need to be looking at very recent comparable sales, ideally in the past 2 to 3 weeks. But if one seller decides to sell way below market value, it doesn't mean we need to chase them, because one sale doesn't make a market, but we do need to look at the most recent sales. Now, the flip side to having realistic expectations is to not panic, right? And what I've seen is some sellers are basically selling their home within the first week way below what the home is worth, like $100,000+ below what it's worth. And I don't know if they're doing that because they didn't give themselves enough time to list and are truly desperate and have no other option, or if they're just panicking, right? Because they're not getting a lot of showings, or agent just tells them to take it because things aren't looking good. But with our listings, most of the offers that we got for the homes that our clients needed to sell, their first offers were terrible, and we rejected them. And being patient and sitting on the market a little bit longer ended up paying off, because our clients ended up getting closer to the prices that they want. So, we got to be realistic, but we also, don't want to be desperate. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, and it's not in my report, and it's something that we've been seeing on the ground, and I wrote a little bit about on Twitter, is a terrible strategy that some agents are doing. So, I mean, if we think about a home that's listed for $799, that's really worth $950. What some agents will do is they will list it for $799, set an offer date, but it doesn't sell on their offer date. So rather than change the price closer to what they want, which is say $950, which is what a good agent would do, they just leave it on the market at $799, hoping that someone's going to offer them $150,000 over asking. And this is a terrible, terrible strategy. I mean, one of our agents was just talking today in our sales meeting, how her and her clients went and viewed 3 homes, all listed $799, all have been on the market for a month. None of them want the asking price. They all want more than the asking price. When you ask the listing agent how much more, they say, I'm not telling you, just bring me an offer. You look at the comparables. And this is terrible, because as the buyer, you don't know who's unrealistic in terms of their price expectation, who's realistic, and the seller's agent is actually hurting the seller's ability to sell their home by taking the strategy. You cannot be sitting on the market in a slowing market at $799 expecting someone to come in and offer way over asking. It's a terrible strategy. And I think some of these agents are actually hurting their clients' ability to sell their home at a reasonable price, because they're wasting weeks on the market following this odd pricing strategy, hoping someone's going to pay more than asking without multiple offers, or someone's going to come in through the door and pay over. It's a terrible strategy. Anyways, those are a few thoughts on kind of what you can do as a seller if you're selling in a slow market. I hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below or send me an email at askjohn@movesmartly.com.